Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have Buster on the phone, Supervisor Johnson?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. Call this meeting to order, April 18th. We do have a quorum, and we'll begin the meeting with the invocation led by Pastor George Carey of the Kingman Presbyterian Church, and then Supervisor Watson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we stand before you this day that you have made. We need your help to rejoice. We need your help to be glad in it. And we call upon you to be of help to the supervisors as they meet this morning. We thank you for government that you have bestowed upon Mojave County. Through government, you are good to us, and we thank you for your goodness through each of these supervisors who serve. We pray for their agenda and pray for unity and peaceful results of decisions made here today. And we thank you for your goodness. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Board of Supervisors may, by motion, recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 431.03A3 and 4. I'll now entertain a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held May 2nd, 2016 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 431.03A3 and 4 to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Going on to the official business to come before the board this morning. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Attorney Ekstrom, do we have anything?
Madam Chairman, no.
Okay, moving on to committee and or legislative reports. I'll begin with you, Supervisor Johnson. Do you have anything?
Nothing this morning, Madam Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Watson, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. Just a couple of updates. Last week, Supervisor Johnson and I testified in front of the session that Representative Gosar put together for the opposition to the Grand Canyon National Watershed Monument. A number of people were at that meeting, and over 140 people actually spoke, and resounding opposition to that proposition. On another note, on Arizona, I've been working with the CSA, and along with that, discussions with Representative Sonny Borelli, Regina Cobb, and Senator Sue Donahue. All three of them are working diligently on trying to get our lottery funding for $550,000. It's ironic that Mojave County sells, we're third in line of sales of lottery funds, but yet we receive none. So it's ironic that that occurs. Only Maricopa and Pinal County beat us in sales in lottery tickets. Representative Cobb is continuing to work on the indigent defense funding for us. That will save us a great deal of money. And all three are working to lessen the proposed $1.9 million hit from the legislature. We're kind of in a catch-22 with the legislature. We continue to be bashed by the Joint Legislative Budget Office for not enacting all our revenue sources. So in light of that, we're representing our constituents with the lowest amount of taxes possible. We're the lowest in the state of Arizona on sales tax, and we're tied for sixth for being the lowest in property tax. So we're in a catch-22. So until the legislature and the budget folks have a different viewpoint of Mojave County, I guess we'll continue to suffer from that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Watson. Supervisor Moss, do you have anything?
Nothing, Madam Chair, and I'd like to apologize to you and the viewing public and those in attendance because of my severe allergies.
Understand, thank you. Supervisor Angus?
Nothing this morning, Madam Chair.
Okay, moving on then to the county administrator's report. Do you have anything this morning?
I have no report today, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion for the approval of the March 7th, 2016 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we'll go on now to the call to the public. Those wishing to address the board at the call of the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public. Request to speak form located in the back of the room prior to the meeting. Action taken as a result of public comments would be limited to responding to criticism, referral to staff, or placing a matter on a future agenda. Comments are restricted to items not on the regular agenda with the exception of the consent agenda and must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. I do have one person signed up to speak, Tony Graffy. And then I also have another person signed up for an item on the consent agenda, number 9, and you can speak now or later on that, Mr. Bruce Hinman. Good morning. Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Good morning. Tony Gaffke, and it's 16049 North Maple Road, Dolan Springs, Arizona. I have 3 little minor things. We put on a parade every year up in Dolan. That's our Dolan Days thing. It's about 36 years old now. I just reviewed the process to get the permit for this particular parade, and we have to contact 4 to 5 agencies within the county to obtain our permit, and it's a 1 per month type thing, so they have a month to think about it and then go to the next one. Is there some way we can streamline that to an application or something that is just circulated between the departments?
During the call of the public, we can't really comment on anything, but I can refer that to staff and
Okay.
see if someone could contact you with an answer to that for you.
Sounds good. Second item is crosswalks in Dolan Springs. We have 1. We would like an additional 4. So if you can refer that to the proper people. We have spoken to transportation, but it just seems to get tabled or pushed down. It's only a matter of painting and, putting up the proper signage to indicate there's crosswalks within our little city area.
Okay, and again, I'll refer that to staff, and maybe they can put that on the Traffic Safety Committee agenda.
Okay, now the third item is kind of tied in with the Lake Mojave Rancho Fire Department. Have you considered an amount to buy warrants from us for an emergency type situation? I know there's going to be more presented, but is that something that we can get on the agenda to see if the county will actually purchase the warrants on an emergency basis outside of our funding?
I believe that we have an agenda item that's going to cover that for you, and
Okay,
if
thank you.
not, contact me later, and we'll talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony. Okay, Bruce Hinman, would you like to speak now during the call of the public on item number 9?
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Bruce Hinman. I am the president of the board of the Havasu Senior Center and also the Havasu Meals on Wheels program. I'm here today in support of consent item number 9, and that is the installation of an illuminated marquee in front of the Senior Center to help promote the activities and functions of the Senior Center. We've never had this before, but the reason we are asking for this is, one, we have noticed a decline over the last 7 years of the number of meals that we prepare and serve to the community by 21%, and we've noticed a decline of 14% in the activities of seniors in the Havasu area using the Senior Center. And we're finding through a little bit of research that it's basically that seniors don't know that we exist. And so a number of years ago, we went into a marketing program to try to promote the Senior Center to seniors in our community. And we were fairly successful doing so. We've sort of turning the tide on that trend. but we're finding it is expensive and somewhat maybe not as productive as an illuminated marquee in front of the senior center might be. We need the revenue, we need the people coming to the senior center to support our activities because that helps us generate the funds of an average of $75,000 a year that we contribute to the Meals on Wheels program to help the county in paying for this operation. In addition to that, the activities at the senior center generates another $80,000 on average to support the senior center itself. So we ask your support excuse me, in our being able to pay fully for this installation. And we understand that we would be working, and we fully understand that we accept this idea, that we would be working with the County Public Works Department in the installation of this project. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other persons that would like to speak, I'll now close the call to the public, and we'll go on to our presentation this morning. We're very fortunate to have so many longtime associates here with us this morning that we're going to recognize for their years of service. So, Ken Cunningham.
Yeah, go up. Shake a few hands.
You bet.
Good morning. The service awards that we're going to do today are for up to year-end 2015. Mojave County officially recognizes an employee's years of service through the Service Awards program. This morning, well, I should say, for 2015, we had 125 service awards. We don't have that many this morning. 82 of those are the 5 and the 10 years, and those will be done at the department level with your department heads. The others range from 15 years to 35 years of service with Mojave County. The Board of Supervisors and Mojave County Management would like to congratulate all of you dedicated employees receiving an award today. For those employees that were able to attend the presentation, please wait until your name is called and then come forward to receive your award. And then if you'd go through the line here, and then if you would wait over by the wall, we would like a group picture. For 15 years of service, Cheryl Branson. Congratulations. Thank you. For 15 years of service, Michael Brown. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sharon Dusho. Congratulations. Amber Freed. Congratulations. Nick Hunt. Linda Kelly. Lori Kimbrough, again 15 years. James Long, 15 years. Robert Oscar. Kathy Rosenkrantz, Gary Waters, Dennis Wheeler, Tina Rye, those are our 15-year recipients. For 20 years of service, Sherry Sixberry. For 25 years of service, Josie Garland. For 25 years of service, Brett McKee. For 25 years of service, Yvonne Orr. For 25 years of service, Marianne Roche. Congratulations. For 25 years of service, Chris Tapia. For 25 years of service, Lori Wills. For 25 years of service, David Wolf. For 30 years of service, Sherry Collison. For 30 years of service, Susie Duranzo. For 30 years of service, Teresa Perry. For 30 years of service, Robert Tennell. And for 35 years of service, Dottie Majerick. Again, we would like to thank you all for your years of service and your dedication to Mojave County. Thank you very much.
All right, that certainly was an honor, and so many of these participants this morning receiving their awards I've worked with myself for years and years and years, so it's really exciting to see some of the people with 15, 20, 30, and even 35 years of service to Mojave County, so thank you, each and every one of you, again and again. Okay, so we're going to get back down to the consent agenda and carry on. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. So I'll start with you, Supervisor Johnson. Do you have any items to remove?
Thank you, Madam Chair. 9, 16, 19, 28.
Okay, Supervisor Watson.
I have none.
Supervisor Moss? And Supervisor Angus?
27.
27, and I will remove item 26. So I'll entertain a motion to approve items 5 through 32, minus items 9, 16, 19, 26, 27, and 28.
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll start with item number 9. Approve a donation of $22,997.66 from the Havasu Senior Center Board of Directors to proceed with the installation of a self-illuminating two-sided reader board marquee in front of the Havasu Senior Center as their gift to the Senior Center and the county facility. The Havasu Senior Center Board of Directors will be 100% responsible for the installation, maintenance, and payment of this property improvement. This is put on the agenda by the Department of Health, and Buster Johnson, you asked for it to be removed, so I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the wording is wrong, and I would make the motion to accept the donation of $27,997.16 from the Havasu Senior Center Board and refer it to staff to proceed with the procurement and installation.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Going on to item number 16. This was removed by Supervisor Johnson. Approve the award of contract number 16P01, medical examiner service to Mr. Mosley, MD, Phoenix, Arizona, to serve as the Mojave County medical examiner for an initial 2-year term commencing on July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2018, with the county having the sole option to renew the contract for 3 one-year renewal options. The total fee for services for the initial 2-year term, including the lump sum first monthly installment fee of $163,200, is $1,231,200. Buster, I'll turn the floor over to you again. If you could pronounce Mr. Mosley's first name, I would appreciate it, if you can.
You're very funny, Madam Chair. That's why I made you the chairman.
Arcacius.
Thank you.
Arcacius.
Arcacius. All right, is there anything you wanted to call to our attention?
Yes, is procurement there, or whoever's in charge of the contract?
Yes, we have Annie Furoth speaking at the podium right now.
Okay, can she tell us, is there any change in the contract amount?
Contract amount. Chairman Bishop and Supervisor Johnson, the contract amount, actually, it's a reduction in what we are currently paying the Dr. Worley by about $1,000 a month for the monthly fee.
Okay, did we straighten out the problem we had with all collection of fees before, where we were allowing the coroner to collect fees and then report?
Yes, we did. As I understand it, the Auditor General's office is satisfied with the changes that we made amending the contract with the current contract, as well as we made those modifications moving forward.
Okay, so all monies will be handled through the county? Or reported to the county, I guess that would be the right way.
They're reported by the county, yes. They're reported to the
Okay.
county.
All right. There's also a question, is this person going to be a full-time employee, or are they still going to keep their other job?
They are going to be a full-time employee for Mojave County. However, the contract does allow them to do other side work so long as it does not take away from their duties as Mojave County's medical examiner.
And Madam Chairman, I need to make a clarification on that.
Okay,
They're not going to be just a clarification, and it's a technical clarification. They're not going to be an employee of the county. They're going to be a contractor for the county. So it's specifically written within this agreement that they are definitely not an employee of the county and don't have those. The county doesn't have the obligations in relation to this contractor that we would otherwise with an employee. Thank you.
Okay, to clarify that then, that this will be their number one job, that we're just not a part-time job. Maybe employee was the wrong word, but we will be their number one person that they're subcontracting to.
That is correct.
All right. On all equipment, have we got a complete inventory? I saw the inventory we had in the back. Does that include the $75,000 that was given for vehicles before?
No, the vehicles are not part of that. When we amended the contract with the current ME, we provided the funding for them to purchase the vehicles, but the risk manager at that time did not want to have any liability towards them being owned by the county, so the money was a lump sum increase to the salary for the ME during that time period. There was the additional verbiage that should she leave prior to completing that 2-year term, that she would pay back the proportionately the amount of the $75,000 should she leave without completing the 2-year contract.
Okay, so we're not getting those vehicles then. When those vehicles leave, or if they're kept by them, do we have any requirement that the signage and everything else gets removed from them that says Mojave County Medical Examiner?
I don't believe that there is language in the contract, but we can certainly speak with Dr. Worrell and verify that that is completed as part of the contract termination.
Okay. What about startup costs?
The startup costs were included as part of the board packet. There were certain items that the county determined that we would like to maintain, or that we would like to have ownership of those items once the contract terminates. But during the contract term, the medical examiner is responsible for all repair and maintenance of those items.
And how much is that money, the startup cost money?
The part that we are going to get ownership for at the end of the contract, or the total startup costs?
Well, both.
Let me see. The total actual startup costs were $122,668. However, I don't believe that we are paying the total amount of that. His offer did not include a line-by-item amount. It was a lump sum.
All right, those are the only questions I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Supervisor Johnson, if you like, I can send that information to you after the meeting when I have a chance to decimate to get the information together.
Sure, that's fine. Thank you, Annie.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Annie. Do any of the other supervisors have any questions before I call for the vote? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve contract number 16-P-01 for medical examiner services to Archias Mosley, MD.
I'll second the motion.
We do have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Going on to item number 19. Authorize general fund contingency for up to $344,000 for the use in the following areas: up to $330,000 net of utilizing savings from other line items from PDO, LDO, LAO, and IDS for additional costs associated with providing indigent defense services, up to $12,000 for additional jury trials, and up to $2,000 for additional process serving costs for the North Canyon Constable. Supervisor Johnson, you asked that this item be pulled, so I'll turn it over to you. And
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was curious if they could go over the reasons for this. I know a lot of it was covered in the backup, but we get a lot of questions from the public on the expenditures of money that's laid into the budget.
okay, we do have Blake Schroeder here. I think he can probably summarize that for us. And also Coral Lloyd is present, and they're both approaching the podium.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson, floor is yours if you want to ask Mr. Schroeder any questions.
Yes, if you can go over the need for this and why it wasn't covered in the budget session.
It was covered in the budget session, I believe at the budget workshop. I had spoken that the cuts to IDS, we would try to operate within them, but given the expenses associated with capital defense, it would be an unrealistic expectation for us to stay within that budget.
Are we going up or are we going down in the use of the alternative attorneys?
There was a brief period back in December in which we began utilizing contract attorneys more than we typically would. That was due to a mass overflow of cases from the public defender's office that has since been squelched with the hiring of additional attorneys.
So I guess going forward for the next budget year, we're going to see that we will need to add an additional $300,000 to $350,000 to the line item to cover expenses for next year?
Yes, I would estimate that.
Those are the questions I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. How much of this percentage-wise is for the capital cases, for the death penalty case?
For the 4 capital cases that are currently ongoing, 2 of them are at trial, or I'm sorry, 5 capital cases. 2 of them are in trial, 3 of them are on the post-conviction relief process. This year, including attorneys and investigations, we've spent approximately $383,000.
And you expect that this should be the same number going forward?
Approximately, should both cases remain at the trial level.
You know, we've been having this discussion down in Bullhead City because it was a headline in our papers about the death penalty cases, and we have a number, and one of them is a very gruesome crime that happened in Bullhead City. But I started doing a little research, and I was surprised by some of the things I found. The death penalty is always it's always a debatable issue. In the state of Arizona, well, here, we've had 37 people executed since 2014. Between 1962 and 1992, there were none, and then there was a Supreme Court case that said that we could do by lethal injection, and there are, at this time, 119, according to the Arizona Department of Corrections website, about 119 people on death row now. And, again, we can debate about that, but what I'm concerned about is the cost. And I was a huge proponent of death penalty. However, we rarely do follow through on them anymore, as most people know. They go on for years and years. It seems like the only people who make money are the lawyers and everyone involved in it. And I think as a community and as a county, we need to have this discussion. And again, in my research, I found a website called deathpenaltyinfo.org. Again, it's probably, I don't know, I didn't get into it all that much, but I think it is an anti-death penalty website. But it had some very, very good information. And I was reading a paragraph, and if you'll just indulge me for a moment, because it does pertain to counties and the expense of it. Whether the death penalty will be sought in a murder may depend more on the budget of the county in which it is committed than on the severity of the crime, according to several prosecutors. A report by the Marshall Project found that the high costs of capital case prevent some district attorneys from seeking the death penalty. You have to be very responsible in selecting where you want to spend the money, said Stephen Taylor, a prosecutor in Liberty County, Texas. You never know how long a case is going to take. One capital case can bankrupt a county. I know now that if I file a capital murder case and don't seek the death penalty, the expense is much less, said James Farron, the district attorney of Randall County, Texas. Well, I know that justice is not for sale. If I bankrupt the county and we simply don't have any money, and the next day someone goes into a daycare and guns down 5 kids, what do I say? Sorry? Prosecutors cited past cases in which counties had to drastically alter their budgets in order to pay for death penalty trials. In Jasper County, Texas, a county auditor said the budget shock of a death penalty case was as bad as a flood that destroyed roads and bridges. Seeking the death penalty in one case in Gray County, Texas, forced the county to raise taxes and suspend raises for employees. The defendant was sentenced after all of that to life without parole. Now, this is where it got funny. When Mojave County, we're only talking about Texas, but now all of a sudden, when Mojave County, Arizona prosecutor Greg McPhillips decided not to seek the death penalty in a case he thought was particularly heinous, he pointed to costs as the reason. The county attorney's office wants to do their part in helping the county meet its fiscal responsibilities in this time of economic crisis, not only in our county, but across the nation. So I thought that that was interesting that they cited Mojave County in that report about the cost. So I guess what I'm asking is, at what point, and I know a lot of thought and serious thought goes into these capital cases, but at what point do we say, is the cost too much? Because we know the costs are going to be great. And that is a given when we don't know about budgets every year. We're wringing our hands about the budget. So I just want to ask that question. We have one that's just starting up. The young man is like 24 years old. We all know it's going to go on for years and years and years, and the chances of it being followed through on is pretty nil. So I just want to ask, what is the thought process in deciding these things?
The authority to proceed in charging a client with the death penalty with capital punishment, that authority lies with the county attorney. From the defense side, we're mandated to provide the defense, which is exponentially, more involved when it's a capital case. So I hate to pass the buck on, but actually I would
Right, I know that everyone is entitled to a defense, but it is a choice to go to seek the death penalty. And so maybe Matt Smith wants to speak to that.
Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning.
If you just give us a brief summary of that. I know it's our legal responsibility to provide for capital punishment according to ARS 134013 mandates that the counties provide this component of indigent defense. So can you just enlighten us a little bit and help Supervisor Angus understand?
I can, and I have no problem doing it, and I don't feel like the buck has been passed. So,
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Supervisors, County Administrator Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Ekstrom, I would be happy, and I'm sorry, Ginny as well, I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. I think that probably the question that Supervisor Angus just asked was, what is the process? So in the state of Arizona right now, being an elected official and taking an oath, one of the things that I have to do and what our office has to do is to prosecute criminal offenses. Obviously, murder is the most important and the most heinous of crimes, and so it is incumbent upon all the county attorneys to make a decision and have some type of instrument in place for making these decisions. And in our office, what we do is that, first of all, death penalty only applies to first-degree murder. It has to be first-degree murder, which can be either premeditated murder or felony murder. For example, if people are involved in a bank robbery, they're committing a felony and somebody dies as a result of certain crimes, then that is a first-degree murder as well. The first thing that we look at then is, are we going to win the case? So if we look at a case and we feel we're not so sure we're going to win this thing, or there's a decent chance that the defense is going to get a lesser included offense, such as second-degree murder, then we're not going to pursue the death penalty because of the fact that there is a lot of cost involved, a lot of time involved. So that's the first question. Then you have to look at the statutory aggravating factors. A lot of people don't know that, but there has to be at least one or more aggravating factor, or the case is not even death penalty eligible. Those factors would be victims under the age of 15, because obviously it's worse to kill children. If the victims are over 70, if the defendant has previously been convicted of a murder or serious offense, if the defendant is on parole, if the offense is committed for pecuniary gain, which means money, like a contract killing, if the murder is especially cruel, heinous, and depraved. There are a number of factors. I believe there are 13 of them. We look at those and we decide, can we prove those beyond a reasonable doubt? How strong are they? And then we listen to what the defense has early on. They provide the mitigation. The reason that's important is that the jury ultimately, who makes the decision in Arizona now, has to decide that the mitigating factors that they find are sufficiently substantial to call for leniency, which is fairly subjective. I don't really know. I could not tell you exactly what that means. Basically, each individual juror makes that decision. So if we look at all those factors and we decide that it is first degree, we're probably going to win, there are at least one or more aggravating factors, and the mitigation offered by the defense is not probably going to sway a jury, in our opinion, then and only then do we pursue the death penalty. The decision is made by the prosecutor assigned the case, such as Greg McPhillips, who you pointed out in that one particular case, and then Jay Sack, who I thought was going to be up for a service award today because he has 30 years in. I have to mention that for Jace, and myself. So Jace and I sit down and we ultimately talk with the prosecutor involved and we make that decision. Do we factor in financial considerations? That's not supposed to be what we do, but realistically, is that something that we look at? Yes. The case that you quoted involving Greg McPhillips also involved a situation, though, which it was the main reason, was that we thought that there was a significant chance in that murder case that the defendant would be found guilty of second-degree murder. So when you look at that and you look at the money that would be involved, because anytime you have a death penalty case, the defense is entitled to 2 attorneys. They're entitled to a lot more expert witnesses. Those cases are looked at with more scrutiny. There's more resources involved. So that's the decision-making process. And right now, the fix, if, for example, our county supervisors thought we don't like the death penalty or we're in favor of it, but it's too much money, I think the fix is a legislative fix, which would be to get our legislature to decide that we're not going to have the death penalty anymore. Because under separation of powers, my office, I have to look at whether or not it's appropriate to go after in a particular case, regardless of my personal feelings and somewhat regardless of finances. But again, I can assure you that we do look at the financial aspects involved, and I think I've kind of outlined the procedure.
Okay, and there's one that you were able to get a death penalty, the Kirchner case, right? Is that how you said?
Daryl Ketchner.
Ketchner, yes. And then it was overturned.
Correct.
Are you going to retry that for the death penalty?
Well, this is one of those that's kind of tricky as far as what I'm allowed to say and what I can say publicly, because I can tell you, like, if I started addressing the facts of that case or get into what I thought about it, what's going to happen is the defense is going to file a motion to change the venue because the county attorney talked about it at a public meeting and it generated a lot of publicity. The decision comes down to whether or not our office decides to offer a plea in a case and whether or not Mr. Ketchner, who as the defendant gets to decide whether or not he's going to accept a plea. But since the murder conviction's been thrown out, we at least will be trying him again for murder unless he accepts a plea offer in this case. In the other death penalty case, I think you're aware of is Mr. Rector down in the Bullhead City area involving Bella.
Right. No, I do get that. It's just the money part of it, and just as someone who, as all of us, has been observing the way these things are going down, very, very few, as you can probably, agree with, that very few go all the way to where they actually get, they die.
The answer is one, since I've been here.
One.
And I'm coming up on, I hate to admit it, I've been here 28 and a half years.
No,
And in that time, there's only been one person, Daniel Cook, who was prosecuted by a friend of mine, Eric Larson, and then I ended up taking the case over at the end. That's the only person in Mojave County that has actually been executed since I've been here.
Right.
And I'm responsible for 2 of the 119 that you mentioned.
Right.
There are 2 of my cases that are currently on death row out of Mojave County, so.
Right. It just seems, maybe you're right, it's the state, it is a state fix. It just seems we're a little schizoid on it. We can't really decide which way we want to go, and the money just bleeds out of it. And, as someone who has to look at the budgets, it's important. And now we had this, and I understand. But I just wanted everyone to know, because we were talking about it down in Bullhead. People were asking questions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is anybody
Supervisor
else?
I'd like to make 2 comments. First, I'd like to compliment Matt Smith and his office and Greg McPhelps. They're great prosecutors, and you guys do really good work, so thank you for all the services you've rendered. And for Jay Zach's 30 years, I'm sorry he didn't get a reward. I would have definitely shaken his hand, if nothing else, to get him sick. But the second is more of a public policy issue, which Supervisor Angus and County Attorney Smith alluded to, which is, does the legislature decide that we're not going to allow the death penalty anymore, or does the Board of Supervisors simply stop funding the death penalty costs? And this is just my observation. The defense bar and certain judicial philosophers thinks that the death penalty is a bad idea and that we should get rid of it. There are certain advocates who try to make the death penalty case more and more expensive, because that will encourage the people who pay attention to budgets, legislators and county supervisors, to perhaps try to avoid pursuing the death penalty. And eventually that will result, or could result, in a legislative fix where we say to each other, well, we're just going to be content with natural life in prison, and we're not going to pursue the death penalty anymore. The same debate occurred in Europe, and is still in England and France and other countries. And what happened is that as soon as the budgetary entities, the legislators and their equivalent to the supervisors, decided they weren't going to fund the death penalty anymore, the defense bar and certain judicial officers switched their focus and said that natural life in prison is cruel and inhumane, and we can't do that. There's always the possibility of redemption. And then now they're doing where everybody, no matter what you do, you get a chance to get released into the public at some point. Now, some people, like the Cray brothers, they don't, but most do. You could kill someone in England and theoretically be out in 5 years. That's the battle we're waging now. We're essentially in a battle for, if you want to say it, civilization, and we can't, in my opinion, step back an inch, because once you give up that inch, they're going to go for another inch and another and another and another. So I think, say what you will, you can be an honest disagreement as to whether the death penalty is a good thing or a bad thing, but I think in Mojave County and the state of Arizona, we do think there are benefits to it, and this battle will never stop. Whether it's today or 100 years from now, we'll still be arguing it. So again, I think we should fund this. I think that we should continue to pursue the death penalty in cases where there are heinous crimes and when children are involved and other horrible things. I think the prosecutor's office does a good job, and I think we, as the funding source for these, to make sure that the rights of the accused are protected until they're convicted, as the funding source, we need to do this because, like I said, it's a generational thing, it's a year thing, and we can't back up not even an inch. So thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Watson, do you have anything?
Just a comment. I've always been really proud of Mojave County and Mojave County court system for the way it approaches the victims' rights. And it's always been profound on me that there's a victim to these crimes, and I'm just proud of the way Mojave County handles that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I have one additional question, Mr. Smith. On a capital case, I understand that it takes 2 attorneys rather than 1 to defend these cases. Is that true?
It is, and unfortunately, from my point of view, because that is an additional cost. And the reason that it works that way is that it's such an immense amount of work, and we want to be extra careful. You know, if the state is trying to take somebody's life, we've decided in Arizona that they're entitled to 2 attorneys. The breakdown is 1 attorney actually handles preparing for the trial, you know, trying to get an acquittal, or a lot of times trying to get second-degree murder rather than first, which defeats the death penalty. And the other attorney focuses on mitigation, which is an investigation into the background of the defendant, where he's from, what happened to him as a child, whether or not he was abused as a child, what do his teachers have to say, his fellow classmates, friends, any mental health issues, anything else that could be mitigation, and one of the attorneys focuses on that part of the case.
Okay, so the county attorney's office has 2 attorneys as well as the defense?
We only have 1, and it does not really cost our office or the county much more than any other serious, complicated case. Whoever handles those we don't hire a special prosecutor. Somebody just absorbs a case, like Greg McPhillips on Rector or Megan McCoy who's handling Ketchner. That's just part of their caseload. So other than the possibility of maybe needing to spend a little extra money on an expert, most of our experts are the police officers or the DPS crime labs. So from our point of view, from our budget, it doesn't really raise our costs.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, I'm also concerned, like Supervisor Angus, about the cost, but I also agree with Supervisor Moss. The debate has to continue, and the battle has to continue, and it's got to be done at the state level. So I think we're doing a best job as we can, and unfortunately these things happen, and we have to be able to provide the defense as required by what we have as our state law right now. So if there's any other comments, questions, I'll call for the vote then.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 19 of the agenda.
Second the motion?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Going on to item number 26, authorize the Public Works Director to approve an application for a special event permit within Mojave County right-of-way in the Wallapai Mountain area for a B-Corps Satachi and Toyota-sponsored continuous test drive event involving professional drivers accompanying general public starting at Wallapai Mountain Park and traversing Wallapai Mountain Road, DW Ranch Road, East Sweetwater Road, Blake Ranch Road, and non-county off-road routes, encompassing a total of 52-mile loop, which returns to Wallapai Mountain Park on Saturday, May 21st, 2016, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, May 22nd, 2016, from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., upon fulfillment of Mojave County Public Works Department special event policy requirements. I pulled this because I've never heard of this being done in the Wallapais before, and it seems like an awful lot of excitement for a 2-day event, and I just wanted to make sure that the liability insurance that this group has provided is enough legal liability for all the fun and the off-road travel that's going to happen in this 52-mile loop. So, Steve, if you could just set my mind at ease on this and let me know that the Sheriff's Office is in tune, and fire departments and all the emergency personnel that may be called upon during this event.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Bishop.
Good
and,
morning.
Supervisors. This is an event that is part of the Greater Hotel Tacoma event that Wallapai Mountain Park is hosting on the weekend of May 22nd and 23rd on behalf of the Toyota Corporation, which is, I take that back, it's May 21st and 22nd, the Saturday and Sunday that the Toyota Corporation is staging for various invited guests. So our reference to the general public concerns this being a satellite event of the Greater Hotel Tacoma event, whereby certain invited persons by the Toyota Corporation will be partaking and in a test drive of sorts with the use of Toyota Tacoma trucks as well as Yamaha motorcycles. The event is being coordinated by a professional special event company, B Corp, on behalf of the Toyota Corporation, and the Public Works Department will be working closely with the Office of Risk Management to ensure all of the requisite liability insurance is in fact in place. We have been in contact with the local fire department, and we also will be coordinating with the Sheriff's Office to ensure that any questions, concerns has been properly addressed.
Okay, and I assume that we're gaining some revenue from this event?
That's
the Parks
correct.
Department.
Chairman Bishop, what happens is the Greater Hotel Tacoma event has netted, and I don't have the specific figure, but approximately over $44,000, well, $44,000 for Mojave County Parks as part of the Toyota Corporation and B Corp reserving the entire park for the Hotel Tacoma event. This just happens to be one of the satellite events tied to the main special event gathering.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 26 of the agenda.
Second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 27, approve the requested budget increase of $128,050 to the Elections Department General Fund to cover the cost of the May 17, 2016 state special election. The funds are being requested from the Mojave County Contingency Fund. Supervisor Angus, you asked for this to be pulled. I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to explain to everyone that this is for the special election that was called by the state for Prop 123. We won't go into that. I hope everyone does their research on that. But and that to make sure that I understood this correctly, that the state will reimburse the counties for this cost. And how long does that usually take? That I'm even more interested in knowing.
Morning, Mr. Temperate.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Bishop, Supervisor Angus, rest of the supervisors. Yes, you're right. Prop 123 and 124, it's actually two questions. And actually, the added bonus for Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire District is going to be on their little board just up in two areas, Dolan Springs and Meadview, which will help defer cost a little bit, relatively speaking. But yeah, the way it's written in the bill that came up is they are to reimburse for the cost. They didn't use the word full cost, but after talking to the people, I'm saying, is it full cost or not full cost amongst our groups? And they say, well, we'll see. It's kind of being hung out as a carrot. The governor, Ducey, to pay full reimbursement for this and the full reimbursement for the presidential preference election, but he doesn't want to get rid of the presidential preference election, which is still a bill that's in the legislature. So we got two forces kind of going with and against each other at the same time. I'm expecting this will be reimbursed totally, because this is something they wanted, is really what it comes down to it. The PPE, we're trying to hope to get that one fully reimbursed. Because right now, it's originally was set at $1.25 per active registered voter, but they said they put that bill in earlier this year to try to do that one as well. It comes down to this. I'll have to give them my bills after the May election, and I will have reimbursement by the end of June because they want to get it out of their coffers before the fiscal year as well.
Well, to me, the PPE and this are two completely separate things. I mean, I'm of the mindset that the political parties should pay for the PPE because they are excluding taxpayers, so everyone pays, but not everyone gets to vote. And then, and you see what's happening today. We don't have to go into it, but you see what's happening today. So I believe, and I intend to work hard in getting our legislators to work very hard in changing that so that the political parties pay for it. at least in Colorado, they're honest about it. They don't hold elections. They just have the party elders, get in a room and do it. If that's how they want to do it, fine, but let them pay for it. That's the other thing. But this is different. This is so I'm interested because he said that the governor's office, they're sort of being cagey about it, whether they're going to. So it's almost like, if it doesn't go our way, is that what you're implying?
No, I'm implying it's still with the other bills out there playing a game, and it has to be with that PPE, which are unrelated, but whether it's going to continue or not. That's the way I understand it to be. I think it's really going to end up happening. We have to hold the election regardless of the fact and do it the best that we possibly can. But the bill did say we'll reimburse for costs. I put that exact language in the agenda item. So I think you're going to have 15 screaming counties if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's one of the arguments that's always made when there's a special election. Not to even mention the costs for the special elections that have to be factored in, and then you never know which way it was going to go. So that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the requested budget increase of $128,050 to the Elections Department General Fund to cover the cost of the May 17th state special election.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Going on to item number 28, approve the report of the routine personnel actions taken during the pay period of March 9th, 2016 through April 1st, 2016. This was pulled by Supervisor Johnson, and I give the floor to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions I really have. I noticed that under the county manager's report, we still have the Office of Budget and Management, and it's my understanding all the original employees are gone or will be shortly. The direction of OMB has changed. One of the main items that we had was an independent audit of fees, and that is no longer being done, and only review of fees is done. And this independent audit, at least in my opinion, was a valuable tool to protect the citizens from overreach and the county from subsidizing costs. The billing of the federal government for reimbursement is complicated, and we no longer have a person who can do that at OMB once these people have finally left. The requirement of being a CPA is being waived, and there was a good reason to have a financially educated person in this position. I guess it's my understanding that the job was posted as full-time and then changed to part-time. A temp was hired and then advertised for full-time. So, and I guess that person is the one that's being hired. So my first concern is that it appears OMB is no longer remotely OMB. And if we're no longer going to provide the service, we should disband it. And second is the use of part-time to fill positions, then advertise for full-time and hire the temp. I believe we are walking a fine line on labor laws. Those are the only concerns I had.
Okay, thank you. We have Ken Cunningham at the podium, and he'll address those questions for you.
Madam Chairman, may I take a stab at a couple things? I believe the listing of that employee as OMB is listed by mistake. Actually, OMB was disbanded, and those two positions were given to the Treasurer's Department. Even though the one individual that was referred to by Supervisor Johnson is being hired into that OMB position, it is no longer an OMB position, it's a Treasurer position. So the board did, in abolishing the OMB, agree that from time to time the board would have duties for those two employees to do special projects for the board. From time to time we've had special projects from the administration standpoint and has asked these employees to do stuff for us. Currently, the two people that occupied those two previous OMB slots, one of them is still with the county and the other one has moved on and now works for the city. So it's kind of dysfunctional at all. From an administrative stand, are disjointed to a great extent. From an administrative standpoint, though, what I've done on the duties that OMB used to do is I've provided my departments with direction that they will have to take more responsibility in establishing fees and working in that regard. And the other duties I've asked our finance department to assume a lot of those structural duties, and at least for the submittals and the accounting work, to assume those duties and to at least oversee them or provide some direction for getting those things completed. And I think we're going to have to move that direction, lacking a true O&B department. Finance is going to assume more and more of the responsibilities of O&B, and our departments are going to be responsible for establishing those the fees for those particular departments, and they're going to be all overseen by our finance department.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Johnson, did that answer your questions, or would you like to ask Mr. Cunningham to come back to the podium?
I guess, well, I can still ask Mr. Cunningham a question, but I guess as far as Mr. Hendricks goes, the one thing that really stuck out was, especially with fees for the county, where we had an independent, a group of people who reviewed everything and then said, this is what your fees should be, and we could argue over whether they were right or wrong, but at least we had an independent group. We will no longer have that, so you're saying finance will do the best they can, or a department's going to be required to try to figure out their own fees?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, with the board's decision not to continue to have an O&B department, the only solution that I could come up with is to make the departments responsible for establishing their own fees and to be more independent for anything that they were requesting of our O&B department. Administration has assumed additional duties along those lines, and our finance department has taken up the responsibility of actually being the overseer because of their financial and accounting accounting expertise.
Okay, and I guess that answers my question on O&B, Madam Chair. The only question I have for our personnel director would be, I think we're walking a fine line on labor laws with this hiring of part-time people and then putting them into full-time positions. I don't know what his position is, but I think it's something we really need to look at before we get ourselves in trouble.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Johnson, are you talking about the part-time temporary employees?
Yes, we're like on this one, and I know it's been mislabeled, I guess, OMB. From my understanding, it was advertised as a full-time position, then changed to a part-time position. Position was filled, part-time temp, and then we go out again, and then we happen to hire the same person that we filled as a part-time temp. That just seems like we're trying to skirt a law.
The position was posted as a full-time, as a management analyst, and then it was decided during the interview process that they would hire that part-time. They did hire a temporary employee back who left the county. She was a temporary employee, and then she was hired back into the county as a regular employee, as a management analyst, as a part-time, because the department felt that that's what they needed, and made the accommodation so that would work for the department. The department does use temporary employees, and then those people are trained, so they're not necessarily moved into the next position. Those positions are posted per county guidelines, and then everybody is put into the pool, and the most qualified applicants are hired. So I don't know if we're skirting the rules, or the temporary, the unclassified positions, we are hiring them throughout the county, not just in this department. And a lot of departments do hire their temporaries into full-time positions because they are qualified, they are trained, and it's easier just to move them in when they have a full-time position available.
Those answer my questions, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the other supervisors have any questions, any comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the report of routine personnel actions taken during the pay period of March 9, 2016 through April 1, 2016.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, going on to the regular agenda. Item number 33, discussion on possible action, an update from Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire Department Administrator John Flynn regarding the status of the fire district. I do have one person that has signed up to speak on this item, but we'll hear from Mr. Flynn first. Good morning, Mr. Flynn. Understand you have really good news for us, so.
I do. Good morning, Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, staff. John Flynn, representing Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire District with a status report and update for you this morning. So I'll just get right into this. All right. Maybe I'm pushing the wrong button. Aha. All right, just a brief little background. We started this 38 months ago, the project. The district was insolvent. We implemented a plan to mitigate the financial insolvency with a target date, plus or minus 24 months, one little bit longer than 24 months to get the district financially sustainable. As of July 1st, 2015, or the FY16 fiscal year, the district was solvent and sustainable, and there currently is a governance transition in process now. As you're all aware, I've appeared before the Board of Supervisors in the past, and we had talked about consolidating the Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire District into the Northern Arizona Consolidated Fire District, and that didn't go through. And so the next stop on that governance transition to get the district back to being an independent special taxing district is to call for a special election. The Board of Supervisors did that, and that is May 17th, and we're on the ballot, at least in Dolan and Meadview, along with Prop 123 and Prop 124, and the district we pay our fair share of those election costs. The current financial status for this year, FY16, the budget that we're in, $1.1 million is what's slated on the revenue side. It's comprised of direct property taxes, fire district assistance tax, ambulance service revenues, and grants. We typically, because budgets are estimates, we typically take in about right in the vicinity of about $800,000 a year, and that's what we operate the district on. Typically, the grants don't come in the amount that is established. Ambulance service revenues is flexible. It's dynamic. Depends upon how many ambulance calls we get. In that regard, I petitioned the Arizona Department of Health Services for an ambulance rate increase here probably 6 months ago, and we were awarded that to try and recoup some of those costs, because I would point out, as I've pointed out in the past, that the ambulance service, while it's a critical component of the services we provide in the Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire District, and I might add across 2,000 square miles approximately of northwestern Mojave County, it does not pay for itself. It is subsidized by the taxpayers in Dolan Springs and Meadview, or the taxpayers of the district. And so we tax at the maximum amount, 3 1/4, so revenues are pretty stable. I mean, we're taxing at the maximum amount. You can see that property tax revenue, if we got everything that we were supposed to, would be just shy of $600,000 a year, but we have a projected tax delinquency of about just over $100,000 per year. Cash flow, and cash flow is our issue. It is not an issue of we don't have enough money to operate at our current service levels. It is a cash flow issue. It is based upon the way the property tax system in Arizona works, where for like the year we're in now, FY16, we required backstopping, that we basically registered warrants, for lack of a better word, and the county backstopped us on that, because between July 1 and about November, we don't have enough cash on hand to operate the district, but come November, of course, we do, to operate the district the full year. It's just a matter of when that cash comes in. So a revolving line of credit is not unusual for special taxing districts. What was a little bit unusual was we've had clean audit that the county servicing bank, which is Wells Fargo, decided that they were not going to extend us a line of credit, even though they get first position on property taxes as taxes come in by law to repay that line of credit. I don't have any sway over the bank's lending policies. That's just the bank's lending policies. So that put us in a little bit of a conundrum there. So we went out and we approached several of the local banks here, Mojave and Mission. We've approached other lending institutions. That being said, I've had a relationship with the gentleman who is the head of government banking at Chase. He was with Wells. He's now at Chase on other insolvent fire districts in Navajo County. And so he has told me that while we don't have a final approval on the revolving line of credit, he's confident he can get us there. And so that is good for the Lake Mojave Ranchos Fire District, because without that revolving line of credit or somebody to backstop us, we would have to suspend operations. So let me just give you an idea of why that is. The district, if I use March as an example, this March as an example, the district expends right about $57,000 to operate the district on a go-forward basis. Ambulance revenues only account for $27,000 of that in March, so we've got about a $30,000 flux in there. And so without that revolving line of credit to backstop us until taxes come in, we don't get that. So we also have a National Bank of Arizona, who have also done business in the past, is also interested in extending the district a revolving line of credit. We just haven't had a final word from them. So we'll see what that's going to cost. Typically, those revolving line of credits, Chase has said, would probably be at prime, which is about 3.5%. The catch there is going to be that because they're not the county servicing bank, they have to draw up a whole new set of docs. There's not enough return on extending the revolving line of credit to even cover the production of those documents that the Treasurer's Office and the Lake Mojave Ranchos Fire District and the bank would be comfortable with, so that the district will more than likely have to pay for those documents, those legal documents. I'm being told right now in the vicinity of $15,000. That being said, I don't think that there's much of a choice either way on we're going to expend the $15,000 on the district side, get a revolving line of credit established so the district can continue on an ongoing basis. One of the things that is ongoing with the district and poses a continued financial challenge is property values. We lost another 10% in property values for the coming fiscal year. You can see by this forecast here, I've amended this. You can see we'll take about a $64,000 haircut in taxes going into FY17. So that's very concerning. It'll be very tight there. They certainly have the ability to operate, but to not have to establish a line of credit like many organizations do, we'd have to accumulate enough cash each year over year until we had a reserve built up so we didn't have to depend upon a bank to draw on that line of credit. And so that is probably, at the rate the financials are looking, probably 5 or 6 years off for them to establish enough of a bank, of a reserve fund, so that they don't have to do that. So it's very challenging for districts, especially independent taxing districts in this economic environment. They're stable. It just poses another challenge. The long-term outlook is they're going to operate at the levels they operate at now, well into the foreseeable future. Any additional property value losses beyond FY17 will present further financial challenges. We staff 3 firefighters a day when we can. 2 operate the paramedic ambulance in Dolan Springs. 1 operates a fire truck as an EMT in Meadview. And daily supervision now provided by, I hired a fire chief. As of April 1st, he took over. It's Tony DeMaio. I'm sure some of you have met him. He appeared at a public meeting up in Dolan Springs on Saturday. And so our relationship with NAC, Northern Arizona Consolidated, is completed. And here's the part I think that everybody is anticipating. This is a governance transition timeline, and if I might, I've got a little more detailed copy of this that I'll go ahead and pass out. So today we're at a status and progress report. We also have, because it's the third Monday of the month, this is the day for the Lake Mojave Ranchos Fire District public meeting. We will distribute and discuss the governance transition plan and schedule, the detailed one, which I have just distributed to the board. On May 16th, that'll be the third Monday in May. I will adopt a tentative budget and begin the posting process for the district. Because the revenues are fixed, the revenues are going to be what the revenues are going to be. I will adopt a tentative budget that has the expenditure side of the budget to operate the district as it's being operated now. On May 17th, of course, we have the special election. The registered voters of Dolan Springs and Meadview and the Lake Mojave Ranchos Fire District will elect five governing board members. And then in May 2016, I believe, I know Alan's here, I think it's 10 days, I could be wrong, that we have to canvass those election results. Once those election results are canvassed and certified, we'll establish the board members' terms of office. And then in June, that initial organizing meeting, which is location and time to be determined, we'll get the new board in place for the district. We'll get the oath of offices done. They'll elect a board chair and a clerk, they'll establish a public meeting schedule. They'll review their operating procedures, and we'll start transitioning all the finance and administrative items over to that board. Now, beyond this, you've got a few more details on those sheets, and the reason that I'll establish that tentative budget in May is so that the board has something to start with, so it's not just a clean sheet of paper. And on the expenditure side, those 5 elected officials are certainly have the latitude to change those expenditures however they'd like. The revenues, like I said, we're taxing at the maximum. Will be fixed. Will be fixed on that. And I'll walk those board members through all that when they take office. Then they hold that initial public meeting in June. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions Chair or supervisors might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Flynn. Supervisor Johnson, do you have any questions? Any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I take it you've given information today you didn't submit for any kind of backup?
Chair, Supervisor Johnson, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I had no backup regarding this item. The numbers you're reading today and you put up, those were not submitted for backup?
No. Chair, Supervisor Johnson, no, sir. However, the monthly financial reports are all posted to the district's website, and I'll be happy to provide those to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a moot point now if the board's going to change over, but it's hard for us to, or at least myself, to form a lot of questions when this information comes on the day of or presented to us at the agenda item time. Some of the questions I had you've gone over, but we're getting late information on the fact that Wells Fargo did not want to extend the line of credit. What is going to happen if the other boards do not extend the line of credit and you're having an election? Do people get elected and there'll be no more board?
Chair, and to Supervisors Johnson's point, no, there will still be a board. So what would happen is that the district would have to curtail operations down to a financially viable point. So if there's no line of credit, they'd take whatever cash that they're going to take from this fiscal year into the next fiscal year and utilize that for just administrative purposes, because there's some things by state law that they have to do. So the board would have to meet every month. They'd have to review the financials. They'd have to have those reconciled. There's a whole list of financial requirements under state law that they would have to do. And then the district would operate at a very marginal level until they built up enough cash come November, December to restart operations.
Has it been made public knowledge to these folks that are running the problems that they're getting themselves into? I mean, it's a lot to ask a regular citizen to take over something like that.
Chair and members of the board, that's correct. We have a we have notified at public meetings as soon as I found out, or I got the official notice from Dan Warren over at Wells Fargo. I made it public at a Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire District public meeting that there was a possibility that we would not be receiving a revolving line of credit from a banking institution, and we certainly weren't going to get one from Wells. We were going to seek out additional opportunities to do that, but yes, that the future elected officials needed to know that this is a very challenging environment in Lake Mojave Rancho's Fire District, and that was a real possibility.
You also mentioned on the ambulance service, what is your rate of return on that for collection? I guess, what is your collection rate? 50%, 80%?
No, Chair and Supervisor Johnson, no, it's not that high. Ambulance collections are a fairly complex issue because we take whatever allocations that Medicare and Medicaid provide. So even though, let's just say our rate runs around $1,700 for a paramedic ambulance service, Medicare actually allocates to us what they're going to pay depending upon what the patient condition is and what we're treating, and then how far we have to drive, as does Medicaid. And then private insurers also have their own specifically allocated rate that we have to accept if we want payment for that. And then, of course, we have a significant amount of bad debt as well, because we service, like I said, the district is approximately 65 square miles, just total district, but we service about 2,000 square miles of CON, most of it vast and fairly vacant areas of the county, but has highways that run through it. And a lot of the folks that we go to see can be tourists or travelers or non-property taxpayers outside the county, and those are difficult to collect.
What is your outstanding debt now to the ambulance service or collections?
Chair and Supervisor Johnson, I'm not sure what that outstanding debt is. I don't know that we'd calculate it as outstanding debt once we take the allocations from Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance. We kind of accept those as payment. But I could provide that. I could have the collection agency run those figures, and we'd provide that to you.
I guess maybe just you would know, not so much for if Medicare doesn't give us the amount that you're billing, but just on people who, like you say, are traveling through the area and use the ambulance service and just walk away. Do we have an idea on those debts that we probably never, or that the district will probably never get paid on? Is that hundreds of thousands or 10,000 or?
Chair and Supervisor Johnson, we do. I believe that we allocate about 20% of total revenues to bad debt. So we've allocated just over $400,000 for ambulance revenues, and it looks like we're going to collect right in $310, $315 a year. So I can't do the percentages in my head, but we'll be short about $100,000 over what we project as if we collected all the revenues based upon our ADHS approved rate. So we're about $100,000 under that or so. We're about year to date, we're about $82,000 under what we've projected for ambulance revenues for the year.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I had, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Watson, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I have no questions.
Supervisor Angus, Supervisor Moss? My question is, on this line of credit agreement, do you have an estimate how long it'll take for the bank to actually make a determination and then prepare the final approval and the documents that you said was going to cost the district, $15,000? Do you have a timeline on that? Will it be before the election? Do you have any idea?
Chair and members, it will not be before the election. So if we pulled the trigger, if I pulled the trigger today to say, Chase, let's go, we want that revolving line of credit without waiting to hear back from National Bank of Arizona, they told me that they could have it in place by July 1. So there's about 30 days to get it out of legal, and then once we execute all the docs, but we'd be in place by July 1 for the new fiscal year.
And then the reason that we may want to wait for National Bank, is there a better rate?
Chair and members, I am waiting to see what National Bank of Arizona indicated to me, that they had some documents that they had used in past issues where they think that they may work and that they could save some costs by using those. And so I'm just waiting for them to come back and let me know, yes, they're willing to do that, and see what those costs are, and then I'll take the lowest cost provider for the district where we expend the lowest amount of money to get the revolving line of credit.
Okay. Sounds good, and it sounds very encouraging, and I'm pleased to hear that we've got two banks that are willing to give Lake and Mojave Ranchos that line of credit, which is a real lifesaver. They would have had to have gone dark without that, so I appreciate your efforts there. And just so the rest of the board knows, I've been attending these meetings month after month, and also the community meetings in Dolan and Meadview, and the citizens that are running for the board, I've been well aware of the difficulties and the challenges. So it's not like they're running for board members without any knowledge of the challenges that they have in store. So that's all I have, and I just want to say thank you very much.
Chair and members, if I could, and just wrapping up, I'd just like to extend a thanks to the chairman, who's been involved regularly in assisting to get this project to the finish line, and all the supervisors who've helped out and assisted with that, and county staff, and Mr. Ekstrom and Mr. Hendricks, and county finance staff, and especially the treasurer's office. They have just been really, we wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have done it without it. It's been a team effort, and thank you very much for all your assistance.
Okay, thank you, and I'll see you in Meadview this afternoon for the fire board meeting at 1:30, I believe, right?
1:30, ma'am. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. We have a person who would like to speak, Charlotte Kiefer. If you'll please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Charlotte Kiffer. My address is 7288 West 9th Street, Dolan Springs, Arizona. Madam Chairman, other board supervisors, Mr. Flynn, I'm here to thank you for saving my life. You reorganized our district, and in November of 2013, I was home recuperating from surgery when it felt like a grenade went off in my gut. We called for an ambulance. I was so grateful it wasn't on another run, and they took me to Kingman Regional. It was eventually diagnosed as sepsis, infection, 3 weeks in the hospital, 5 months recovery at home. I thank you, because if you didn't do what you had done, that wouldn't have been available to me and to my family. And now I beg you, I'm smiling at Mr. Flynn's report, because it's so important for us to have this funding to keep our doors open. But I'm not doing my happy dance because the ink hasn't been signed yet on those lines of credit. And we have staff that are holding their breath, waiting for that money to be confirmed. And I need to be assured again, as every citizen of our towns of Dolan Springs and Meadview, along with the students and staff at our school, our Mount Tipton School, we need to be assured that those doors will be open July 1, and that you will be there for us again if there happens to be a problem with the lines of credit. Everyone else's life in our communities are as important as mine. And so again, I want to thank you for all that you did.
Thank you very much for those encouraging words, and I'm happy to see that you are up and about and feeling better. Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time unless there's any other discussion or questions.
I move that we approve the update provided by Fire District Administrator John Flynn.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Mr. Flynn's report. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, going on to item number 34, discussion on possible action. Allow the Mojave County 1991 Gulf War Roll of Honor Memorial Plaque to be located in the lobby of the Mojave County Administration Building where it can be better accessed and secured. I'll just open this meeting, this discussion. I was approached by members of the Superior Court requesting that this be moved over with the other plaque of the Roll of Honor, and I think it would be appropriate and go nicely in our lobby, so.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 35, discussion of possible action, Ray, setting up a periodic reporting schedule for the Risk Management Department on their activities and establishing evaluation dates for the Risk Management Director. Okay. This item is under your name, Supervisor Johnson. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we want, we can go to the next item to see if we're going to take it out. There's no sense in setting up a schedule and doing everything else if the board decides they want to put it under the manager, if that's appropriate.
Okay, well, that's at your pleasure, and I'll move on to skip item 35 for now and go on to item 36. Discussion of possible action, Ray would change the reporting structure of risk management to have the risk management director and department report directly to the county administrator. So Supervisor Angus, this is yours, so you have the floor.
When this board first took over, we changed the organization and we made some direct reports, and one of them was the risk manager, and I believe that we were very successful in the way we did that and how eventually it turned out, and a lot of changes came because of that. The problem now is that we have a new risk manager who's new to the county, is actually new to public work, and I feel at this time it would be best for everyone, because how it was working before with the last risk manager is that he was reporting to the chairman of the trust, which was me, and we don't know in the future how that's going to go. That will be decided in the beginning of the year. And I think that there's just a lot of administrative things and just day-to-day things that he needs to know and that the board cannot provide. So at least for now, I'm not saying that this will be for all time, but for now, I think it would be best, with the board's approval, that we have the risk management report right to the county administrator, but still free to come to the board and the chairman of the trust should there be any problems or any reason to do so.
Is there any other discussion? Supervisor Moss?
Yes, Madam Chair. Is there any proposal to have any other department heads report directly to the board in lieu of what used to be OMB and what is currently now only the risk manager?
So let's, as catch up, it was ONB, risk manager, who else did we have report?
Just those two.
We just had those, excuse me? And the clerk of the board.
The clerk of the board is
you,
by
Of course,
statute.
and the county, right. So I think what Supervisor Moss is thinking is that if we're taking one out, we should put one in. And so.
That would be correct.
So if you want to discuss that, Supervisor Moss, what your thoughts are.
This is my view. The reason why it's wise to have multiple reporting chains to the Board of Supervisors is because you get more information that has been handy in the past, in that, for example, some pay raises were given without our knowledge, and that was uncovered because we had multiple reporting chains. And we are now undoing those multiple reporting chains. We have our clerk, who's our employee by statute. We have our county administrator, who is our employee by contract. But we are now contemplating giving up our second to last employee, who is a direct employee, who is a department head. Having department heads directly report to the board, I think, is wise, because it gives you a sense of where the county is at and what's going on behind the scenes in the county without it all flowing through one information source, which would be our county administrator. I'm not knocking County Administrator Hendricks. I think he's an amazing administrator. He's done a fine job. However, this is a matter of policy, and not everybody human beings are human. There are flaws or frailties, there are things that are missed. That just goes to the course. And if we are going to protect that and protect the taxpayer, I do think that we have to have one or more department heads report to the board. Preferably, and this is just my opinion, because we have had experiences where we have been supervising people, for example, where we don't necessarily have the expertise that they do. But that's the case in every single department. I'm not a county administrator. County Administrator Hendricks is. I'm not a risk manager. Our risk manager is, and so on. It occurs to me that our public defender's office, our legal defender's office, and our various other offices of indigent defense services are independent legal professionals. We could not tell them what to do or how to do their job, even if we wanted to. County Administrator Hendricks can't tell an attorney how to run a case. It's illegal, can't do it. So if we are going to do the one in, one out, I believe IDS should probably report to the Board of Supervisors, because our only real control, other than dealing with them on a day-to-day basis, would be their budgetary issues. And of course, just like our other departments, they would also have a collateral, I'll call it not a reporting, but a communication obligation to make sure the various county governments stay in place.
Okay. Supervisor Watson, do you have anything?
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. Certainly, I don't have any problem with the risk management director reporting to the county administrator. I do have a concern in trying to put one in and one out. I think it's adding some undue reporting by having the LDO and all those organizations reporting to the board. I don't see the real benefit of them reporting to the board. So that's just my personal input.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Sure.
There have been benefits. When OMB was reporting directly to us, the board discovered information that we would not have otherwise discovered. So there are benefits. Now, whether we don't value those benefits as a board as a whole, well, that's the board as a whole make that decision, but there are definitely benefits.
Yeah, I think when we first did that, changed the reporting structure, it was because the old reporting structure that had been going on for many years before we took over, it was impossible for a department head to speak to the board directly. But we've changed all that. And I feel, and this is just me, I feel that if there is a problem or something that any department head feels is going on that they would want us to know, I think all of them know that they could freely contact us without any fear of reprisal or anything like that. So I do think that because we did what we did when we first started out, we've set up this structure that now is kind of self-reporting. But if it would put Chairman Moss's mind at ease, and I do understand, and I think that there's...
If I could correct you,
Yeah.
I'm not the chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that, Supervisor Moss.
Except maybe in a Frank Sinatra sort of way.
Always been my chairman. So maybe what we could do, if it's amenable to the board, is go ahead and today vote to change the reporting for the risk manager, and then ask staff or supervisors to come back with how they believe, if there's any other department, because I'm not comfortable, because I don't know all that much about what goes on with the departments that Supervisor Moss is referring to. I would just want to take more time and think about it. I'm not comfortable in making that kind of decision today. So if we want, we can bring them both back or split them up and vote on one today and bring back next meeting some other suggestions.
Madam Chair, if I may. There's one thing I'd like to address in Supervisor Angus's comments, which are very well taken comments, and thank you, Supervisor Angus, is that for the public's information, if we put the risk manager under the county administrator, so leaving us essentially with only the county administrator and our clerk or direct reports, the county administrator, whether it's Mr. Hendricks or the next one or the next one or the next one after that, will be doing the hiring and firing and employee reviews. They will have the power. So yes, they could approach us, but they would be harming their relationship potentially with someone who controls their careers. That's why it's important to have a direct report. But thank you.
Okay. Administrator Hendricks, did you have something to add?
Yes, Madam Chairman, indigent defense is about, I don't have the information in front of me, but I would say it's probably 35 employees. It's 4 different departments, and it's functioning very well. I just wanted to let the board know the magnitude. My interaction with indigent defense is considerable. I think we've done wonderful things in the area of indigent defense, especially in juvenile dependencies, and that's not because of me, that's because of the fantastic people we have working for those departments. But we do get together and we make strategic plans, and we work with the judges, and we've got a very good relationship all the way around. We work with the county attorney's office. And it is a complex part of the organization. So I just wanted to throw that out to let the board know the magnitude of the responsibility that the board would have in taking over that large of a part of the organization of the county. The other thing that the board has to be aware of is that when you're dealing with personnel, you're also dealing with personnel actions, and you're also held accountable to the Merit Commission and also to the courts if those actions go that far. I've been in front of the Merit Commission before. My directors and department heads have gone in front of the courts before on certain issues. I think in our sessions that we've had, you've heard of some of the personnel cases that have actually been elevated. And instead of me or my directors being in front of those courts in those instances, it'll be the Board of Supervisors if you choose to take responsibility for the departments. As for a county administrative recommendation on how to move forward from here, I'd prefer not to give a recommendation, and I'm not sure that's what the board asked for, because my recommendation would be to not have the board take those responsibilities and those actions. I believe that if there is an issue with the county administrator, which you said there wasn't, and I appreciate that, Supervisor Moss, but if there's a trust issue, or you believe I would ever think about retaliating against any of my employees, or a county administrator would take those types of actions, I think that your issue should be with that county administrator and take appropriate action with your employee, and I would respect that.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
My comments, as I said, County Administrator Hendricks, has to do with process and systems, not individuals. It is incumbent upon us as the Board of Supervisors to receive multiple information sources as to what is going on with the county, to which the Board of Supervisors is responsible to the voters. I view any system, and forgive me, Jenny, but your rules are rather limited when it comes to involving in the county business, any system where the policymaker, in this case the Board of Supervisors, has a one employee reporting source is a flawed system.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. I'd like to make a motion to change the reporting structure of the risk management to report directly to the county administrator without any other changes or additions.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. Okay, so item 35 is no longer an issue. Is that right, Supervisor Watts or Supervisor Johnson?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Did you want to go forward with item 35 now?
No, I'll just pull it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 37, discussion of possible action, Ray, approve on behalf of Mojave County Information Technology Department the procurement of Cisco ASA next generation firewalls and associated equipment for for a total amount not to exceed $100,000. Say, Nathan?
I'll make that
Madam
motion.
Chair, I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item 38, discussion and possible action, Ray, approve utilizing Mojave Cooperative MESC contract number 130-PSC-1107, hazardous materials handling/disposal services and related supplies with Stericycle Environmental Solutions Incorporated, Phoenix, Arizona, to provide household hazardous waste collection events in both Kingman and Bullhead City, and to provide hazardous waste collection services on an as-needed basis for an annual not-to-exceed amount of $129,000 on behalf of Mojave County Development Services Department, Environmental Quality/Waste Disposal Division. Funding for these services were approved as part of the fiscal year 16 adopted budget and is included in the fiscal year 17 preliminary budget, sourced to 505067004.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-1. Item number 39, discussion of possible action, Ray, requesting management direction from the Mojave County Board of Supervisors regarding any change in the service delivery and administration of the County Housing Authority rental assistant programs in Lake Havasu City as the result of non-renewal of the intergovernment agreement for fiscal year 2016-2017. Okay, Susie Duranzo. Tell us what's on your mind here on this item.
Yes, Madam Chairman and members of the board, just a brief background on this issue. I did give you a memorandum there that kind of outlines the history a little bit, and just for the purpose of the public, let me identify some key issues in here. When we formed the Housing Authority in 1990, that was 26 years ago, we actually, when I say we, Mojave County, went to the cities and say, do you want to be part of the service area? And at that time, City of Kingman said, yes, we don't want to we don't want to have our own housing authority, we'll join you, and we're going to give you some financial commitment to be able to serve the City of Kingman. Same token, we approached Lake Havasu City, and at the time, Lake Havasu City said, yes, we want to be part of that, and they also passed a similar resolution saying we will give you financial assistance to defray some of your administration costs. At the time, Bullhead City said, no, we don't want to be part of it, we're going to form our own housing authority, and later on, years later, Bullhead City said, no, we're going to disband our housing authority. Please, Mojave County, take our vouchers and serve the city of Bullhead. So that has been our operation for the last 26 years. And at the time that the cities were approached, Lake Havasu knew that we had a very small administration program. So we were sending our housing specialists to Lake Havasu to serve them when it's needed. And then about a few years ago, the then city manager, we approached him and said, if you want us to serve better your city in Lake Havasu, please help us by funding a certain position or part of this position so we could base this position in Lake Havasu. That way your residents don't have to travel to Kingman. We'll have a presence in Lake Havasu. And that has been going on for several years, and they were paying part of that position. When we went before our budget process, before the county manager, we had put that position in place with the assumption that our agreements with the cities will continue. About last week, I was informed by the city manager that possibly, he will not recommend the continuation of the intergovernmental agreement to fund part of this position. Now, I went back and forth with Charlie in a couple of few emails clarifying what they're getting for the money that they're providing to us, not just the position, but in the tune of close to $600,000 of our federal funds going to the city. And I've provided a chart to the board and also to Charlie on what Mojave County Housing Authority is providing for them for the $39,000 they give us for that position. Now, late Friday, last Friday, he informed me that he will consult with his city council and the mayor. So what I'm providing to you when I put this back up is the intent of the city manager. I think he still needs to go to his city council to confirm that. But having said that, in the event that the city would say, Susie, we're not going to move forward with the IGA for next fiscal year, I'd like to get some direction from the board, primarily because a position is at stake here and the delivery of the program is at stake. Now, I was asked directly the question by Charlie last week, does this mean that if we do not fund the position, Mojave County Housing Authority will cease to operate in Lake Havasu? What I told him is that, no, we cannot cease our operation. We have approximately 152 families in Lake Havasu that we're currently assisting right now. When we did apply for the grants that are outlined in your chart, we did say, regardless of the agreement we had with Lake Havasu, that we will continue to serve Lake Havasu City. So the impact of them not continuing with the intergovernmental agreement is possibly to change our service delivery system in Lake Havasu to get the position out, because I don't have any way to fund that position. It's only partly funded by Lake Havasu. The other programs are funding that out of a grant. So the options we have is go back to you, Mojave County, and say, would you help us with this position by giving us general fund to support that and continue the position in Lake Havasu, or one, eliminate the position and the consequence of that, or base the position in either Bullhead and Kingman, or other fundings may be available for those programs, or, I just need a direction from the board, the consequence of not funding this position at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do the supervisors have any comments they'd like to make, starting with Supervisor Johnson, since this is in your area?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm guessing if the funds go down, the only other way we would have to fund it would be with general funds. So I think that's something we're going to have to address at budget time with the finance director. So I guess today I would have no comment at all.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Watson?
A little hesitant to jump on either direction here. I'm concerned that the funding would have to come from the general fund, because it's a different fund that we're using on these housing authority dollars. So my concern is mingling the dollars.
Oh, Madam Chairman, can I address that a little
Yes.
bit? The position is partly, currently, the way it is right now, the housing specialist position that's based in Lake Havasu is partly funded by the city. We get $39,000 from them for the salaries and benefits, and the other funding are grant funds that we have found to supplement that, and this person is working on those grants to be able to draw money from those grants. So there wouldn't be any problem if the board intends to subsidize this by general fund. So we have general fund that would take place of what Lake Havasu was providing, and will continue to provide other federal and state funding for the other portions of the position. So I don't think there's going to be any question.
Madam
No,
Chair.
I know there's no question. It's just my hesitancy to commingle those funds.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, just a clarification. Is it a viable option if, and it appears the city of Lake Havasu City has pulled their funding for that particular, a portion of that particular position. Is it a viable option to pull that person back to Kingman sometime in the future, not immediately, and have that person do other duties, but actually service the city of Lake Havasu out of your offices here in Kingman?
Madam Chairman and County Administrator Hendricks, that's correct. But let me clarify a little thing, too. Charlie, as of Friday, City Manager Kazans, as of Friday, said he will still need to go before his council and the mayor. So this was just a recommendation at this time. But this was late Friday. He knew I was going to put this on the supervisor to get some directions. But addressing the issue, yes, it's conceivable that we can pull the position to either Bullhead in Lake Havasu for the next fiscal year. We're good till June, because we still have the IGA through June, okay? But in the future, if, say, for instance, for the next fiscal year, City of Lake Havasu said, no, we're not gonna fund the position, the option will be pulling the individual to Kingman or Bullhead and look for other programs in lieu of a general fund, probably, for the person to do, and will still serve the residents of Lake Havasu through either Bullhead or in the Kingman area. Now, we could do this through telephone, we could do this electronically and working with them, and there might be some instance wherein this housing specialty will also go to Lake Havasu to serve some of them. What we're seeing here is not the permanent presence of the position in Lake Havasu because of the funding.
And Madam Chairman, that wouldn't, just a clarification, that wouldn't take any additional general fund monies to be able to do that, is that correct?
County Manager Hendricks, we still need to look at, when we submitted the budget to you during our budget process, this issue was not an issue, so we didn't have any problem. If the city says, no, we're going to pull out, we have to do a rebudgeting to find other funding. I'm not sure if we can do that, and I'm not sure if there's any extra money that's coming in for us to be able to supplant that position a little bit for other funding. So if we don't, then that's the time we come to you in the future and say, Mike, I don't have any grant monies to support this, so either this position goes away or be part-time.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Okay, Supervisor Moss?
What reason, if any, did Mr. Cassens give for not recommending this to the city council?
I do have the first email about 2 weeks ago that I got, because we were saying, you know, Charlie, we're okay with this, right? Because we gave our budget and we need to redo our IGA for the next year. The email that was sent to us, he said he's inclined not to support this for other county issues that the city has with the county. However, in the previous discussions with him, and I said, you know, can we just zero down on the housing authority programs? Do you have any questions on that? I understand there are periphery issues probably on the side, but just the housing programs, can I address some of your concerns? And he says he did. And then we had back and forth issues. He said I could not, his comment was he could not support tax dollars to pay for the program. So we went back and forth on that, but in the initial email sent to us, there were some county issues on a side that I couldn't address, so I said, can I just address what I could address, which is my program? Do you have any questions on the position? Do you have any questions on the delivery of the program? Are there any political issues regarding the housing program as a whole that I could address? And there were, so we went back and forth. I gave him, he said I could not support the amount of money, and I said, look, for $39,000, Charlie, you're getting $600,000 in general in grant funds. So can we at least say the tax dollars that you're paying for that pays or buys more than, and he understood that, but still he said he couldn't support it.
So if I understand your response correctly, one, there were some unrelated county issues which caused him to come to that decision. And secondly, there may have been a philosophical component associated with that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Angus?
Yeah, and how many years have we been working together?
26 years.
26 years.
Yeah.
So this year, there's a philosophical problem.
Maybe, if I may, possibly until the time that there were change of county administration, because the prior county city manager then, who negotiated with us didn't have any problem.
Okay.
For the last
But again,
year.
this still has to be approved by the
That's,
City Council.
as of last Friday, Charlie said, I need to consult with my city council and the city mayor if they agree on his position. So that told me that maybe, it may go either way, depending on what the council's going to do.
May I, Madam Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Moss.
Mr. Ronso, might we, as a board, view this item as being a little premature? Because the city council could very well overrule Mr. Cassin's.
Yeah.
And do you know when they're going to meet? Because maybe we can consider this in the May meeting.
Yeah. Madam Chairman and Supervisor Moss, as of Friday past 5, I thought it might be premature. Prior to that, I thought it was a go on their side, and that's why we agendize it. If the board is inclined to wait, possibly it might be a good idea to wait on when the council, I tried to call him this morning to inquire when the council is going to hear it, but I wasn't able to get in touch with him. So as of early last week, I thought this was the position of the city, that's why it's on the agenda. As of Friday, late Friday, he thinks that he will have to consult with his city mayor and city council. So possibly, if the board wants to wait, it might be a good idea to see where the city is moving forward on an official position on this issue.
Because at this point, I don't think I have enough information to make a decision either way. I know, thank you for informing us of the problem, or potential problem, but which way I want to jump, I don't know.
Sure. Mr. Hendricks.
And Madam Chairman, I believe the one issue that I was made aware of is that if you recall in the Lake Havasu Central County Complex, we separated the security by, we are installing a physical barrier so that administration and the supervisor's office is totally separated from the court, and the security will only act on the court's side. The court assumed the responsibility and the costs for that security instead of sharing that cost as they did previously with the county general fund. So it came from the court side. That cost was included in what they believed was the responsibility of the Lake Havasu court that occupies that portion of our facility, and they were sent a document that was intended to be agendized for the board to approve the increase in fees. It was a fairly substantial increase in costs for security that was included in their rental or their lease agreement for the space, and I think that's one that they took issue with, that Manager Casson took issue with.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Okay. My thought is that this item ought to be tabled until the city council meets, and I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd move that we table this item until the second meeting in May or sooner, pending the city council's results.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Have a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor say aye. Adjourned.
Supervisor Johnson.
Has left the conference.